Hello and welcome to NewsHour from the BBC World Service. We're coming to you live from London. I'm James Kamarasamy. You're listening to the BBC World Service. This is NewsHour coming to you live from London with James Kamarasamy. India's biggest airline, Indigo, has apologised to its passengers after it cancelled hundreds of flights, leaving thousands of people stranded at Indian airports over the last few days. The country's aviation regulator has said the disruptions were mainly due to misjudgment and planning gaps in implementing new rules that give pilots more rest time and less night-time flying. And in the past few hours, the regulator has now paused the implementation of those regulations. Mark Martin is the chief executive of the aviation advisory Martin Consulting. He's been telling me more about what happened.
Indigo willfully chose to not migrate to the new regulations. They waited for the clock to run out. And the whole objective was to add pressure on the government to get them to repeal the regulation. This afternoon, the DGCA announced a temporary waiver and a holdback of the regulation for all airlines, allowing them to take a bit more time and comply. But what shocked everybody here in the region is that if an FDTL regulation affects some pilots, then most of your flights are still going to fly. There was no reason for Indigo to cancel 1,000 flights from New Delhi. It's not like all the flights are affected because of the FDTL regulation. At best, only some level of flights or some amount of flights would be affected. So clearly, this comes up as an extremely uncouth, unbecoming pressure tactic by Indigo. And what's even worse is that for a regulator, for an aviation safety regulator, to give in to Indigo's tantrums and tactics, sends a very negative message across the world that India's civil aviation regulator can bend backwards, is spineless, and can succumb to airline pressure when it really shouldn't. Every airline in India complied with that regulation, and Indigo deliberately chose not to.
Can you just remind us, why these new rules have come in? What are they designed to do?
The previous flight duty time limitations that were in effect were quite archaic and exploited pilots. Refrained from giving them the proper crew rest they need. The new regulation is in compliance with the prevalent regulations, which is in the UK under UK CAA, as well as in Europe under the European Aviation Safety Agency. But with what we're seeing today, India actually goes back to an exploitative regulatory environment where pilot workload and pilot input and ability to fly will be impaired as a result of extreme and excess fatigue.
Who are the losers and who are the winners then in this?
Well, I mean, India loses with the world. We lose our credibility and standing. The Indian regulator loses its integrity. The world would now look at Indian regulators as being spineless and with Indian safety regulations being bendable. And in all of this, I think the only winner is going to be Air India and to some extent travelers, because now guess what? They're not going to want to book tickets on Indigo anymore.
That was Mark Martin, chief executive of the aviation advisory Martin Consulting.